Okay, it's sending the data again. I don't know why that happened, because I didn't end it.
It says your stream's ended.
Yeah, guys, it's gonna...
Yeah, it says putting me onto another video.
Yeah, so now it's sending the new link.
Oh, that's better.
New link. That sucks.
Sorry, yeah, internet, YouTube.
Your door.
Obviously, you're getting too close to the truth, and NASA had to shut you down, right?
Yeah. It's Murphy. He works for the Masons.
So this China Airlines flight, during the flight, just so the people watching know what we're talking about. During the flight, a lady started giving birth, and they diverted the flight to Alaska. The claim of Flat Earth and of this emergency landing document that Flatzoid brought up is that it would have been quicker to go to Hawaii from the point where the emergency happened than it would to go to Alaska. The reason they went to Alaska is because if the Earth is flat, they would have been flying straight over there. So is that right, Flatzoid? I don't want to strawman you.
Yeah, they could have, if they really wanted to do emergency land, they would have stopped over at Hawaii, like you said, because the distance would be shorter.
Right, so we can see the flight here, and there's Alaska up here, and Hawaii down here. So are you mapping that out, are you, Robert?
Yes, it's good. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm trying to do it in the actual thing. Give me 1 second here. Hold on 1 second.
No stress.
It's just being a
Ooh-wee.
my butt here. 1 second. So I want to go from. Capture it here. I'm going to go from Taipei, which is RCTP.
I hope it's working now. Okay, it's still working.
Come on. To LAX, KLAX. And then I'm going to go PANC. And then I'm going to go down to Honolulu, which is Honolulu. Let's follow Honolulu's ICAO code, PH. There we go. I got it.
But just where Robert's getting at, Flatzoid, do you agree with the map in this document, or do you still not subscribe to the Gleason map?
I don't ascribe to any maps or models. I can say we can use it, but there is definitely discrepancies in it, just like there's discrepancies in any globe map as well. But like I said, because he brought it up, I'm just entertaining it. That's the only reason why I'm entertaining the Gleason's map, is because he brought it up.
Fair enough.
Unfortunately, it's the only one that flat earthers have. So,
Not actually.
if they were something more accurate, we could go.
When
with
I
it.
use
Right.
when I use a map for navigation, I use very accurate maps that is literally just sectional maps, you can say. So it's a map that is sectional from, let's say, 1,000 kilometers, and then you use a total different 1,000 kilometers the next section. So that's what
I'm
I
going to take
use,
ownership.
and I haven't had any issues with them before.
Yeah. So what I've done here is I basically went from Taipei on the left straight to LA. So that's the direct route on the globe. Again, looking at the three-dimensional model. I'm not looking at a 2D model. And then up to Alaska, to Anchorage, Alaska, and then down to Honolulu. So when we look at it, if they were pretty much anywhere along this, let's just say they're getting close to that crossover point, it's faster to divert up to Anchorage than to go down to Hawaii using the actual globe model and not whatever the heck happening.
But why are you putting a straight line there? On the thing, it shows them going around.
Yeah, mainly as a visual tool. Because if you look at the flight plan, I said from Taipei to LA to Anchorage to H&L. So that line going vertically is just that path between Anchorage down to Honolulu.
Yeah, but I'm saying from RCTP to Alex, you put a straight line there that's supposed to be going.
Actually, it's not a
great circle.
That is the.
Yeah, but that's not what he showed.
On the globe.
That's not what he showed on the globe, though. In the book.
That's because what the author of that book did use inaccurate presentation. This is the actual flight path using for flight on the globe.
Interesting.
Exactly. I've gone through pretty much every one of those emergency landings, with the exception there's one or two where it was like it could go either way. But pretty much majority of them, when we actually map it out using actual flight tools, whatever the hell app he was using, it always made more sense on the globe. I've gone through every one of these things.
That's something I'm going to actually re-look into. Because like I said, I haven't really
please
looked
do.
into that because this is the first time I'm really debating flight plans.
And I don't even know, just for curiosity's sake, if I were to do the same thing on Google Earth, I'm just curious to see what it would look like from Google Earth.
Yeah, show us on that. That'll be interesting to see.
How do I-
Maybe it gives something different.
Yeah, I'm curious. So let me bring, I guess gotta see, my geography isn't absolutely awesome, so give me 1 second, because I need to find Taipei here.
Yeah, because that's Google Earth, what he uses.
Yeah, I don't know, he wasn't using Google Earth.
Yeah, it says on the bottom,
I'm
yeah.
pretty sure he was.
Map data
Yeah.
2019 Google. Japan, it's from
Here's
Google Earth.
Taipei. So we're gonna basically do I hate Zoom. Go away, Zoom. Stupid little thing keeps coming down. There we go. So let's do a measurement from Taipei. Come on. And we're gonna zoom out. And go to LA, so we have our visual line here. And go away, you. All right, LA is San Jose, San Francisco. We know we're going to get close enough here. I think LA's down this area. All right, close enough. All right, there. Come on. So now let's back it up, and let's look at the line. So you can basically already see, here's Anchorage. Hawaii is way down here. So this is matching up with what my
So
app was
they
saying.
would rather
Anchorage is
go
much
to
closer
Anchorage,
than
yeah.
Hawaii.
But his argument
Yeah.
is still they have to go there anyway because they're flying over Alaska on the flat Earth.
Oh, they wouldn't normally fly over Alaska.
Yeah.
I mean, normally they're coming south of Alaska, but I mean his very premise, whatever source he used, which showed the flight kind of coming way down over here, is
Yeah.
incorrect.
Well,
And
that's
he
what.
probably did that to be deceptive.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it shows on the bottom here, map data 2019 Google.
Yeah.
Even says
Well, I mean,
12
a lot of
hour.
apps
Yeah.
use Google Map, like the pictures and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what he used. He never specified what he used to do those, but you see it right here. This is Google
Yeah.
Earth.
He might
And it
have.
agrees with what Fortnite's saying.
He might have to re-look at those data points.
Yeah, and we can look at additional ones if you want to, but I've looked at every single one, and they've all proved out that make more sense on the globe, except for the 2 or 3 that was like a wash.
Yeah. But like I said, I'll also look into this as more because I haven't looked into
Sure,
flight plans and
absolutely.
stuff. So
Why don't we have a little chat about flight dynamics? Because I know Flatzoid can't stay too late because South Africa's in the future.
yeah, it's 20 past 12
Sorry,
already.
let's talk about it a little bit.
It's 20 past 12 already.
Yeah. So are you okay to go for like another half an hour, Flatzoid?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Cool. So you want to talk to Robert about flight dynamics? Do you want to start the conversation?
Yeah, I would just like to find out. When you're flying, are you saying that the Atmo is moving with your plane, with the Earth, or is it moving freely?
Sorry, so say again one more time.
When you're flying an airplane, would you think that the Atmo, the wind or stuff, is moving with the Earth, or is it moving freely?
As a whole, the atmosphere is moving with the Earth. But I say that as a whole because we know that there's variations for winds and jet streams. It's not like this, everything's in lockstep. I mean, as a whole, the whole thing is moving together with variations for all the stuff we talked about.
Great. So, but the winds can change direction.
Absolutely.
Great.
The bane of pilot existence when you get a 50 knot headwind.
Awesome. Yeah. So that can change your. So there are no Coriolis then.
You know, Coriolis doesn't really affect airplanes very much because we talk about Coriolis and the fact of, I'm shooting an artillery round 10 miles from, let's say, from the equator south, and it's an unguided projectile. An aircraft is constantly adjusting for winds and for other things. So it's not like, I launch the aircraft and I let go of the controls and no adjustments are made the entire flight. We're constantly adjusting to maintain on course. So I'd say winds have thousands of times more impact on the airplane than Coriolis ever would.
Yeah, I agree. Winds have much more impact on any projectile, even bullets and artillery and everything in the long distance, because that's an actual.
And we're talking about not my expertise at all. I do a lot of pistol shooting, but nothing long range. But we're talking about a sniper shooting something a mile away, and they're adjusting for that much distance. Does an airplane care about that over a mile?
But that's the thing, they don't adjust for Coriolis though. The problem is they don't adjust for Coriolis though. They only adjust for wind.
Well, we could debate that, and
but anyway, we're trying to do the
manuals from the Army saying they do, but that's not our topic.
Yeah, but anyway, I've got even interviews from a guy that does long range shooting that says he believes in Coriolis, but he can't do any data to show that he does adjust for it. So it's very interesting.
Airplane, I would tell you, on airplane pilots, helicopter pilots in general, we don't adjust for Coriolis because it's such a minor impact that we don't care.
Yeah, well, because Coriolis would anyway just be observed from the ground upwards anyway.
Yeah, that doesn't matter to us.
Great. So that's what I'm asking. So if the wind's not moving in lockstep, as you say, it's moving freely all over, then how is someone claiming that you could have Coriolis at all for like hurricanes? I mean,
Shut up, Craig.
Craig.
I wouldn't say it's definitely my area of expertise, but I mean, you look at a hurricane that's hundreds of miles around. That difference in rotational speed at, say, the north part of the hurricane versus the south part of the hurricane, that's quite a bit of difference. And as fighters would love to say, the Earth spins at 1,000 miles an hour. Well, it doesn't. It spins one time per day. But let's just say, at the 100 mile, I'm fully just hypothesizing it, but let's say we're 50 miles south of the equator. The Earth is rotating at 950 miles an hour, but we go couple hundred miles south, and now the rotational speed of the Earth is 800 miles an hour. So that's a 100 mile per hour difference of wind shear caused by Coriolis, which creates that rotational effect.
So
that's why hurricanes and typhoons rotate opposite directions depending upon if they're north or south of the equator.
So tangential speed would change.
Yeah.
So you do understand that the ground would have what we call rim velocity.
I'm sorry, your microphone's kind of like distant, so
you would,
if I could say it's kind of hard to understand you.
That's what I'm saying. So you would understand the ground would have what we call rim velocity.
The ground?
Yeah, because remember, you're flying relative to the ground, to the surface of Earth.
You might be flying relative to the air I'm flying in.
Because the air is not in lockstep, so that means you're traveling in free moving air that's not in lockstep. So let's say the ground is moving now at a latitude at 800 miles an hour, and you're flying opposite to the rotation of Earth. Remember, you're not going with the lockstep of the wind because, the atmosphere is not in lockstep. Would that mean that you are flying against Earth's rotation, and that means you'll get to your destination faster or slower?
All right, so let's expand upon that a little bit. Let's say I'm flying along at the equator, so the airplane's sitting on the ground at the equator. I'm going to take wind out of the picture. There is no wind right now, so wind is zero. I take off, and I'm flying eastbound. My tangential speed on the ground with the Earth was 1,000 miles per hour, right?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So now I've taken off, and I'm flying eastbound along the equator. So I still have that initial speed I had when I left the ground of 1,000 miles per hour, right?
Okay.
But now I've added 500 miles per hour of airspeed. So you could say my tangential speed is now 1,500 miles per hour.
Great. So then it's totally.
But I'm still I'm still only going 500 miles per hour in relation to the ground.
Why
I
would
may be
you?
going,
But why would you only be going in relation to the ground 500 miles, but you're not? You remember you said you're not in lockstep, so you're not going to have anything to do with the ground. You're not stuck to it, not moving with it, nothing, because you are in a different
no,
reference frame.
I said that as a whole, the atmosphere is moving with the Earth. That's why I said we're pretending there's no wind. So with still wind, the atmosphere above the ground is moving with the Earth. So when I take off, I'm not all of a sudden, I've lifted off the ground. I've lost that relational speed I had while I was on the ground. You don't like all of a sudden go flying backwards because I lifted off the ground. So I've taken off. I still have that speed that I had on the ground, and I've added on airspeed.
Yeah, you added airspeed. But that's what I'm saying.
But
Now that you've left the ground is still supposed to be moving the same velocity, the same speed. So you are going now in an opposite direction while the ground is moving in its speed. So your speed relative to the ground would be different.
No, I don't know how to make you help you visualize this. The
So in
ground,
other words, you're saying
again,
the plane
again,
flies backwards.
Again, no wind.
So you're saying the
No
plane
wind.
is.
Now we're leaving wind.
So
The
yeah, but I'm
ground
saying. So you're
is
saying the
zero.
plane is flying backwards then.
Let's get there in a second. The ground and the air above the ground at the equator are both moving at the same speed because there's no wind. Pretending there's no wind.
Yep.
All right. So let's take a helicopter example. I love it when flat earthers bring this one up. I'm a helicopter. I'm sitting on the ground, moving at 1,000 miles per hour. I lift up. Now I'm 100 feet above the ground. Am I still going the same speed over the Earth, or am I all of a sudden going to be going flying backwards?
You're going the same speed that you're flying. Remember, the Earth's not
All
rotating.
right.
The
Okay.
Earth
All
is not linked to you in any way, shape, or form. Air is unbonded,
All right,
so air can't
all right,
actually make you go backwards unless you're claiming that.
Okay, good. Okay, good. So we're in agreement here. So I'm on the ground. Helicopter's going 1,000 miles an hour with the Earth. I lift up 100 feet off the ground. I'm still going 1,000 miles an hour with the Earth, but my airspeed, or we'll call it ground speed, the speed I'm going across the ground is still 0. My tangential speed with the Earth is still 1,000 miles per hour, but my ground speed in relation to the ground is 0, right?
Okay.
Okay. So now I go into forward flight. So now I basically added 20 knots. Say I'm going, a little 50 knots. I'm started going to forward flight. So now I've added 50 knots of airspeed on top of the 1,000 miles per hour of tangential speed. So now my tangential speed is 1,050 miles per hour.
So in other words, when you move with the Earth's rotation, you're moving faster than the Earth, and when you're moving against it, you are actually flying backwards.
Correct. So not backwards. So now if I turn around and go the other direction, now I'm going 50 knots the opposite direction. I'm subtracting from the tangential speed of the Earth. So now instead of being 1,000 miles per hour, I'm going 9,950 miles per hour.
Yeah, let's do it this way. Let's say you can only reach 500 miles per hour with your plane, but the Earth is moving over 1,000 miles an hour. That means you're flying minus 500 miles an hour compared to the Earth.
So if we were to extrapolate that out, my helicopter takes off. It's going 1,000 miles an hour with the Earth, stationary of the Earth. I'm going 500 miles per hour west. Now my tangential speed is 500 miles per hour, but my airspeed is still 500 miles per hour. Probably better to go the other direction. You keep trying to separate you keep trying to say that the atmosphere is totally separate from the Earth, and it's not. There is variations for winds, but as a whole, it's the same reference frame.
No, okay, how am I going to try to explain this? You can fly in an opposite direction to the wind, to the air.
Yep.
Great. So, okay, let's put it this way, just like Skip just said. So, flights from Charlotte to LA, they're shorter going the opposite way than it is going with the way, correct? The flight times, they would vary. They were very based on the Earth's rotation.
No, and not on the Earth's rotation. That's dependent upon the winds. It has nothing to do with the Earth's rotation. do I have a jet stream which is giving me a tailwind or a jet stream which is giving me a headwind? The winds are impacting the flight time and not the rotation.
So not Coriolis then. Thank you. You just made my point.
Not Coriolis. Nope. I mean, yeah, again, Coriolis might have a tiny, tiny fraction of an impact, not even factored in.
So then
The winds are what affect your flight time.
So we'll agree then there's no flying backwards on a globe, there's no rotation, even into taking into account at all.
How could you possibly be flying? The only way you could be flying backwards on the globe is if I was flying, say, 100 miles per hour and I had a 200 mile per hour headwind. Then I'd be going backwards. I've actually done that on a little airplane before.
Oh yeah, but that's physically flying backwards. That's not flying backwards based on data though.
So help us understand your thinking, how you think an aircraft could be flying backwards on the Earth.
If you're taking, let's put it this way, if you're taking the rotation of Earth and you're saying the atmo is moving with the Earth, that means you're moving with the Earth. Now, if you're moving opposite, while you're flying through that air that's literally Velcro to the Earth going back, that means you're going to be flying minus what you are flying. So if you can only reach 500 miles an hour, you're going to be flying, in theory, 500 miles an hour backwards.
Right, so our tangential speed, as you said, was 1,000 miles per hour. Now I'm flying 500 miles an hour westbound. So now my tangential speed in space is 500 miles per hour because I've subtracted my airspeed of 500 from the original tangential speed of 1,000.
Okay, I can give another example. Let's take a river flowing river, and you hop inside the flowing river. You're going downstream with the river. Now you are trying to swim upstream on that river. You're still going downstream while you're swimming upstream because you cannot match the speed that it's pulling you down. Are you swimming backwards or forwards?
Your physical location is going backwards, even though you're swimming. Oh God, it's kind of a bad analogy. Now you have a river going over the Earth, so it's no longer stationary. If you could only swim at 5 miles per hour, but the water's going 20 miles an hour, now you're going 15 miles per hour.
So you're swimming backwards actually, while you're trying to go forward.
So the correct analogy for the Earth is, if I have a 50 mile per hour headwind, I may say that's a 100 mile per hour headwind, but I can only fly 50 miles per hour, I'm going 50 miles an hour backwards.
Yeah, so...
But wind is different from the tangential speed of the Earth, because now you're varying the atmosphere.
So then you would agree that you guys don't actually take any rotation of Earth into account when you do flights?
No, we don't.
So stationary then. So flights then show you fly over a stationary Earth.
I said we don't have to factor it in because wind makes a bigger impact to us than the rotation of the Earth. The rotation of the Earth has the actual piloting of the airplane, the avionics, the inertial navigation system built in the airlines does compensate for it.
Okay, then how can we work out? Let's say the Earth is rotating east to west and you flying south to north, correct? Are you moving? Are you moving with the Earth east to west while you're flying north? So you're flying sideways, in other words. So you're drifting sideways while you're flying north.
Again, to the absolute tiny extent that Coriolis would affect an airplane, yes. But we're talking, inches per mile. And I think Wolfie actually did a video on that once, analyzing a north to south flight, and it was an absolute tiny amount of impact. Again, winds made a bigger impact than Coriolis.
Okay, and then the thing I wanted to ask, like I asked Wolfie that I would like him to present, is I asked him to do a compass, so-called little challenge. I don't know if he's told you about it before.
He mentioned you had brought up once, like trying to use a compass inside the airplane.
Yeah, but we know compasses aren't, don't really work inside a cockpit and stuff because of all the instrumentation. We get that, correct?
Yeah.
But it would still...
That's actually why the actual, especially electronic compasses, modern compasses, the electronic compasses we're using in the airplane, like in the plane I fly, they put the compass, the electronic compass, way out on the tip of the wing.
Yeah.
To get it as far away from the electronics to avoid interference.
Yeah.
Even our magnetic compasses that you'll kind of find on the instrument panel, there's a little correction card, and they actually have to take the airplane out to what we call the compass circle, and they will point the airplane in each different direction and mark, okay, when you're facing north, the compass is erred by 2 degrees to the left. And because it factors in the interference from everything in the cockpit, you have to make an adjustment for that. And luckily, all our modern avionics, they automatically adjust for it. But yeah, it's old school. When I learned how to fly, you had to make adjustments for compass errors.
Great. So
based on the interference from stuff in the cockpit.
So yeah, like I was asking him for the so-called challenge, I wanted to take a compass. In the cockpit, it doesn't have to be showing any accuracy at all. If you're making a bank, would that compass show a deviation on the compass? It doesn't have to be accurate, it's just to show it is changing based on magnetics, correct?
Let me show you. There is an acronym, ANBS. NBS. CR acronym aviation. 1 second.
No stress.
I think you'll actually find this interesting. Because it's something that we have factored in. Where is it? Here we go. If you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen real fast.
Go ahead.
So there's an acronym that we use called ANDS.
Oh yeah. I know ANDS.
So it's basically acceleration. I think ANDS. Acceleration north, acceleration south. So as we're flying along here, if I'm going from east to west and I accelerate the airplane, the compass has been so long that I've looked at this, but the compass is actually going to swing one direction because it's basically grabbing the magnetic pole and actually pulling it the other direction. So these are things, if we were flying by compass, and we never do this anymore, the compass is there as a backup to the backup to the backup. But we have to make compensations for this. When we're learning how to fly instruments, we have to do this because as we're flying along, we've got fog on over our eyes. They're basically kind of like blinders, so we can only see the instruments. We can't see outside. We actually have to do this. And you'll see as you punch the throttle, that compass will swing north, and you're going to have to let it stabilize for a few seconds before you actually get your actual heading. If I decelerate, it'll swing back to the south. It's kind of the same thing you mentioned about turns. So if I'm going north and I start turning right, it'll start swinging the opposite direction for a couple of seconds so it finally catches up.
Yeah.
And that's something that he would see.
Correct. So, if my challenge was to Wolfie was exactly that, because on his instrumentation it shows he's taking a bank, but you can't really see you taking a bank because, I mean, you're traveling such a distance, it still looks straight. So
what would happen
if
is,
he takes,
as soon as I start banking I'll explain you real quick. As soon as I start banking the airplane, initially that compass is going to start swinging a couple degrees to the wrong direction, but then pretty quickly it comes back and it'll actually start tracking what we're doing. So as we're banking, that compass is continuing to swing, and we basically we can compensate for that. So if I'm coming around and I want to stop at a 3-0 heading, I wouldn't go all the way to 3-0 and then stop because I would overshoot it. So I'd get to maybe a 2-8 heading and then take out my bank and I'll settle down at 3. So yes, as we're turning, that compass is going to be swinging, but we have to acknowledge the errors that we're going to get because the compass is not a very precision device.
Yeah, but I'm like I was saying, the compass will point out if you are banking or not.
Yes, it will.
Great.
Yeah.
So that's why I was.
The compass will be changing because as we're banking, we're changing our head.
Yeah, great. So that's why I want Wolfie to show us the compass showing heading changing while his instrumentation is showing that change.
So for what purpose?
I just want him to do it, then I can explain it. But I literally want him to show this demonstration first. So I don't want to just give it away until he actually shows it.
Something I can show you as well. I mean,
yeah, you can do it as well. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can probably do as well because you say you also fly. So would you be able to do the test?
That is what's going to happen. Is as you start your turn, it's going to initially swing a couple degrees the opposite direction until it catches up. And as you're turning and your heading's changing, the compass is going to follow you, and it's going to be changing as well.
Yeah, because I mean, before you take off, you obviously already set your magnetic north, correct, to the gyro.
Correct.
Yeah, that's why it gives that discrepancies.
Yeah, and that's something we have to do in flight. Heading. Again, these are kind of old school instruments because our modern technology is much better than this. Here's that's a digital one. I don't want a digital one. I want an old analog one.
Yeah, the analog works with air pressure, correct? Where it blows the...
No, not the heading indicator.
Okay.
You're thinking about the
No,
altimeter.
but I'm saying it spins the gyro with air pressure. Or is this, or does this just lock it into place onto the north?
Yeah. So here's our attitude indicator gyro. When you fire up the airplane, the gyros, once it kind of settles down, it's going to be pointing in whatever direction they got shut down at. So we take the compass heading, what's on the compass, and typically we'll do this before we take off. So we're on the ground and we're steady. And we'll use this little adjuster here to make the attitude indicator, the heading indicator, match what the compass is. So as we're flying along, we're using the attitude indicator because I got to keep saying the wrong term. The heading indicator, because the heading indicator doesn't bounce around like the compass does. We hit turbulence, the compass is bouncing all over the place. But the heading indicator won't do that. But occasionally, about once an hour, we have to kind of go back up, compare the compass against the heading indicator because we'll get precession.
Yeah.
And that could be caused by multiple things, sometimes a little bit of friction inside of it. But about once an hour, we had to go tweak that heading indicator to match up with the compass again.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah. And you talk about the altimeter, how that measures. And I think somebody had mentioned in the past that it had brought it before. A lot of pilots will say it's like, well, an airplane would have to dip its nose to fly around the Earth. And it sounded like you kind of pushed back against that. You're like, no, they wouldn't have to do that. Is that the case?
It would come up to something like 0.02 degrees or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, not only that is I think you acknowledge that there's a pressure gradient in the atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, if you're trying to go over a globe, even though it's 0.02 degrees that's supposed to be showing, it's still a measurable dip, which you don't get though.
All right. So let's talk about this for just a moment. So here's our altimeter. So this is what we use to measure our height above the ground, and it works by measuring air pressure.
Yeah.
So we know that the higher you go at a regular rate, air pressure gets less and less and less the higher you go, right?
Yeah.
So before we take off, this little adjustment window, we'll pick up what we call ATIS. It's the Airport Terminal Information Service. So it's a recording that every single airport has that gives you, this is what the weather is, this is what the current altimeter setting is for that airport. So 29.92 inches, depending on what country you're in, whether you're using inches of mercury or there's different ways of measuring it. But here we're using inches of mercury. So they say the local altimeter setting is 30.00. Before I take off, I would adjust this little window, say 30.00, so that my altitude should match whatever the altitude is of the field.
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm flying along and I get up to say, for me, if I'm flying along at 12,000 feet and I use the trim of the aircraft to get to the point that I want to maintain 12,000 feet. So I'm adjusting the elevator trim on the back of the plane. If you look at the tail of the aircraft, different airplanes a different way, but there's a little small control surface. And as I'm adjusting that, I'm getting to the point that the airplane stops climbing and stops descending. I've set my power where I want it. I got cruise power set in. I've trimmed the aircraft out so it's going to maintain 12,000 feet. But I'm not trimming the aircraft to a setting on this altimeter. There's absolutely no physical connection between the altimeter and the aircraft itself.
So the altimeter is sort of like a barometer.
Exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. That's in a barometer that shows you a height above your altitude. So I've trimmed the aircraft to maintain 12,000 feet, but what I've trimmed it for is to maintain the pressure outside, which happens to correlate with 12,000 feet.
Okay.
So given the amount of power I have and have trimmed the airplane is going to maintain 12,000 feet.
Correct.
So as I'm flying along, if I'm looking at, the drawing here, here's my, wish I need something round. Here's the globe, 12,000 feet. Again, I'm taking away variations for weather because this get a lot more complex, but say there's no weather changes, 12,000 feet above the ground is basically following the curvature of the Earth, right? If there's no weather changes.
So you're stating 12,000 feet shows 12,000 feet your whole duration that you're staying 12,000 feet.
So again, we're taking away any variations for weather because weather changes.
Yeah, we just
We're
saying. Let's just say
so
you
there's
fly
no
6
adjustments.
hours. Let's just say you fly 6 hours of 12,000 feet.
Yeah.
Weather's perfect. It doesn't show any alterations in that 6-hour flight.
No, if there was no change in ambient air pressure, the airplane is going to stay right at 12,000 feet. One of the really cool drills that we do in training is we would get the aircraft up at 12,000 feet, get it steady, and then we would purposely, without changing anything else, we would leave the trim alone, we'd leave the throttle alone, we would bump the controls forward and drop 100 feet, and then let go. And then we would sit there and watch, and the airplane would naturally bring itself back up to 12,000 feet because that's what we trimmed it for.
Yeah,
So
that's
as
what you
you're
said.
going across the Earth, if you've trimmed it for that particular pressure level, it's going to maintain that pressure level all by itself because that's what it's trimmed for. Now, what happens if we fly through a weather system? So say we go from a high pressure system to a low pressure system. So we've trimmed it, so I'm going to pull a number out of my butt here. Say I've trimmed it to maintain 24 inches of pressure that correlates with 12,000 feet. So I go from a high pressure area to a low pressure area. So now where I was at this particular altitude matching up a bit, if I go on a lower pressure, maybe I'll get backwards here, the actual altitude above the ground is going to adjust because now the airplane's got to readjust itself to find 24 inches in the new pressure gradient.
Yeah.
So that's why we wouldn't say that, I'm going to set this and I'm going to forget it for the next 5 hours.
Yeah.
Because going from, if I fly 20 miles away, the air pressure is going to change.
Yeah. No, I
So
understand.
that's why
that. So you guys are using barometric pressure to keep your altitudes.
Absolutely. And if we get above, now I never do this because I'm a little airplane. In the U.S., I know I've heard some countries all aircraft above 18,000 feet all set the altimeter settings to 29.92.
Okay.
Because if you can imagine if I had an aircraft take off from L.A. and their initial setting was 29.92, but then the other guy took off from Denver and he set his to 30.92, and they're flying along at each other. They're using different references. So ATC wants this guy flying at 30,000 feet, and they want this guy flying at 29,000 feet, but this guy's altimeter is wrong. He's actually down here, and they're going to hit each other. So once you get above 18,000 feet, everybody sets the altimeters to the exact same setting, so they're using the same reference.
I just want to find out, so if a storm's brewing up, does it change the temperature and does change the pressure?
Yep.
Great.
And that's why when we're coming in the land, as we're approaching our kind of along the way too, they'll do the same thing. Say I'm flying along and I'm transferring from different aircraft control centers. When they transfer from Denver Center to LA Center, they'll say, welcome, airline flight 1234. Current altimeter is 3001. So they'll give you updates along the way so you can adjust your altimeter as you're flying across the country to be as accurate as you can be. And that's one of the last things we do before we land is we'll adjust the altimeter to the local airport setting. Because if I took an example, I'm coming in, I'm flying in the clouds, I can't see the ground. If I don't adjust the altimeter, let's say I've got it set to 1 inch too high. So I have it's the actual is 29.92, but I've got it under 30.92. Now I'm flying 1,000 feet lower than I think I am, and I'm going to run into a mountain and crash and die. So this altimeter setting is really important when we're close to the ground, because if it's wrong, my actual height above the ground is wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it works on barometric pressure.
Yep.
So yeah,
and we've got cross checks now. I mean, with GPS, I can cross check what the altimeter is showing against the GPS detected altitude. So if I think there's something wrong, if I lost my pitot-static system, which is what's controlling the altimeter, I could go over and use GPS, absolute altitude. It's
Okay.
just not quite as precise.
Okay, then I just want to find out. So, if you spin the gyro up to keep your rigid plane, your
Yep.
does it coincide fully with this with the altimeter? So, if you're flying, like we said, the 5 hours, it's not going to show any change in that plane of reference because of the gyro.
So I'm going to show you here real quick. There's no physical connection between the attitude indicator and the.
Yeah, obviously
the
not. But
attitude.
your gyros just to keep your, so you know you're flying rigid in space. You're keeping a level flight. But I
Yeah.
mean, would it change? Would it show a change based, because if your altimeter, so they're having the same type of readings. If you're flying 12,000 feet, your gyro is still going to show you flying level at 12,000 feet. Correct?
Yeah. So all the gyro is showing you is what is your plane doing in reference to the Earth. So it's got nothing to do with altitude. What is the aircraft doing in relation to the Earth? What this is showing here, this is a mechanical gyro. These little objects down here, these are actually little copper veins, and they're called pendulous veins. So as we're flying along, because again, another flirtism, they'll say, well, as the airplane's flying along, that gyro is going to start dipping and dipping and dipping and dipping because it was set at your takeoff location. And what these pendulous veins do is, as you're flying along, in reference to the kind of reference to gravity, whether you believe it or not, whatever you want to use for gravity, if the gyro starts getting off plumb from the Earth, these little veins open up and it uses air pressure to straighten the gyro back up again. So this is constantly happening, and these little veins are adjusting to keep the gyro upright in relation to the Earth itself.
Yeah. So it's keeping
it's
keeping it
adjusting
spinning.
instrument.
It's keeping it spinning so it can keep that rigid in space spin. I mean, because you actually spin the
Correct.
gyro up before you take off. Correct?
Correct, and there's a couple of multiple ways. It could be electrically powered or it could be vacuum powered. We got
Yeah.
different ways of doing it, but they essentially work the same. But
Yeah.
they built in adjustments, and there's different ways of doing it. But this one particular one uses pendulous veins. So if the gyro starts tilting too far off in relation to the Earth, those pendulous veins will open up and correct it to keep it upright.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Because you're on the ground now. Let's say you're sitting on the runway. You've set up your magnetic north. You've set up your gyro spinning. You've set up everything ultimately. Now you're taking off. So now you're getting to your preferred altitude. Now you're trying to fly level. Does the gyroscope still show the same level horizontal than it was when you were on the runway?
Yes.
Cool.
So disconnect. The gyro is showing me my relation to where I'm at on the Earth at that point in time.
So it's parallel
not
to the
from
floor
where I
then.
was at when I took off.
So it's parallel then to when you set the gyro. Because you've
Not
set your
parallel,
because the gyro
we're going over the curvature here.
because the gyro sets a horizontal, correct? So you know what your rigid in space is at level. Level is the horizontal.
The gyro is going to show me what is my attitude in relation to the Earth at where I'm at over the Earth, not where I took off from.
Yeah, that's just when you're sitting you're sitting still. You spun the gyro up now on the runway. Your plane is sitting
Yeah.
horizontal, correct? It's sitting still. It's not moving at
Yeah.
all. Great. So it's set up that baseline of horizontal. Now you are going up in the air. It's supposed to keep that same horizontal no matter your altitude. So in other words, parallel to where you took off.
How would I explain this again? The gyro is not showing you, I'm going to get a little slower here. The gyro is not showing your relation to where you were when you took off.
No, it just
The
keeps
gyro
you
is
rigid
showing
in
you
space.
your relation to the Earth, where you're at over the Earth at that point in time.
Yeah, and it doesn't rotate. It keeps staying horizontal. When you're flying
No,
level,
so
it
that's what-
stays horizontal because it's what tells your plane you're flying horizontal.
Yeah, that's what these correction devices
Yeah.
are for, to always keep the gyro upright in relation to the plumb line of the Earth. And it's using gravity to do that, whether you want to believe in gravity or not. Call it the density of the gyro. Whatever method it's using, it's always going to keep the gyro upright in relation to the Earth. not to where you started from.
Great. So your gyro doesn't show any deviation from horizontal spin.
Not as you're flying. It's going to show deviation if I'm going to stop sharing for a second so you can see my picture. So I'm flying along. Oops, come on.
Blue screen.
If I start banking, it's
Yeah.
going to show the airplane in relation to the Earth is now in a bank. My attitude indicator is going to show that. If I start climbing, it's going to show me in a climb. But in relation to the Earth, the plumb line with the Earth,
Yeah,
the
because
gyro is always going to stay upright.
yeah, the
And that's what
gyro stays horizontal no matter which orientation you are going. It stays rigid in space. Your plane is
gyro is
yeah.
yes.
Your
Yeah.
plane's
In relation to
instrument
the
is
Earth.
yeah. Your plane is based on reading that gyro's reading of horizontal based what you set on the Earth.
Yeah, so we like especially if I was flying in the clouds, I'm going to use that attitude indicator to basically see it's like, oh, I'm in a bank. I need to correct back the opposite
But
direction.
you understand But you understand the issue here. Then it would be
Yeah.
picking
Well,
up.
the
It would be
issue
picking
is
up your
you
your
still
nose.
think-
You changing your nose
You still
dive.
think that, yeah, you think the gyro is fixed to where you took off from.
No, it's
And
it's
I-
fixed to a horizontal. That's what it's fixed to, level. That's what
No,
it's set to.
I'd almost say it's fixed to the plumb line of the Earth.
Which is horizontal. Plumb is 90 degrees to horizontal.
It's vertical. It's vertical.
Yes,
So
90
your
degrees to
gyro-
a horizontal.
Your gyro, I got some vitamins here. Your gyro is spinning,
Local.
spinning,
Yes,
spinning.
and it stays
It's staying
spinning.
upright to that plumb line down into the Earth.
Yeah, so it would show changing plumb, keeps changing while you're flying, and it doesn't. It keeps the same rigidity in space from when you took off.
Yeah.
That's the
So
issue.
let's say
That's why you
let's
can't
say
pick
this
up
is the
any.
cap.
That's why you can't pick
Hang on.
up any dip, because there is no dip.
Yeah. All right. So it's spinning. It's staying upright with the Earth. Here's the actual part of the gyro, because there's two different parts. Here's the actual part of the gyro. If I start banking the airplane, that part of the gyro is going to start adjusting because now I've made a change. So it's doing this while the base of the gyro is staying upright in relation to the Earth. So it's not one solid piece. There's multiple pieces involved in the gyro.
Yeah, but if you're flying, let's say 12,000 feet, and you were on the ground, the gyro is still staying exactly the same orientation. It's not showing difference in orientation.
It's always going to stay in relation to the Earth. And I can't say that 50 times. That's what it's going to do.
That's.
Yeah.
I'll have to make a video to show you what I'm meaning, actually, because I don't think you're
I
getting
know
my
what you're
point.
trying to say.
I don't think you're
your
getting my
premise
point.
is just flawed.
No, my premise is not, because it would literally show deviation. It doesn't.
It wouldn't, because it's constantly correcting for the plumb line of the Earth.
So correcting means it would show it's correcting.
You keep ignoring the fact that the gyro is constantly adjusting itself, to stay vertical in relation to the Earth.
It doesn't correct anything. It just stays rigid. There's no correction
No,
of the gyro. The only thing that
You're-
corrects is your
No.
plane towards the data
So-
that the gyro is giving.
Again, you're ignoring the actual physical components of the gyro. In this case, the pendulous vanes.
To keep it
Its
spinning.
primary job is to adjust for what you're saying can't be adjusted for.
It's
That's their
to
job.
keep it spinning.
Nope, keeping it spinning is just whether it be vacuum or the electrical. That's what's keeping it spinning. The pendulous vanes are to adjust it for, keep it vertical with wherever you're at on the Earth.
Gyros.
So it's not going to stay rigid in relation to what you took off from. It's going to adjust itself as you're flying along. This always stay upright with the Earth.
Then there's no reason to have a gyro then, because if it's changing, then it doesn't stay.
So the gyro is showing me what I'm doing in relation to the Earth. If I'm flying along and I get disorientated, you remember, I think it's John Kennedy Jr. Did you ever hear the story about him? He's one of our former president's sons who died off of the coast of Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah, go on.
What he did, he was flying in the clouds, and it was dark. It was nighttime. He had only gone through a little bit of instrument training. He wasn't instrument qualified to fly off the instruments. His airplane probably hit some turbulence, got turned over in a little bit of a bank. So he can't see outside.
Yeah.
So what happens when you get turned in the bank is the airplane starts to turn. So the airplane is now turning. So as the airplane turns, what happens if you turn and you start pulling? you start getting a little bit of G-forces. So he starts turning, and you got that little bit of G-force, so his inner ear is now pushing him down in the seat. So he thinks he's upright, but his instruments are showing that he's turning. But he's not trained well enough to trust his instruments. His instrument's telling me he's turning. So he's now in a bank, which means he's lost lift. So now the airplane starts to drop. He starts gaining airspeed. So what does he do? He pulls back, and he pulls back, and he pulls back, and the airplane goes into a death spiral and crashes.
Mm-hmm.
His altimeter was showing him that in relation to the Earth, he was in a bank. Not from where he took off from, but at that point in time over the Earth, he was in a bank. But he ignored it. So the gyro is not showing me what is my relation from where I took off of 200 miles before. It's showing me where am I at in relation to where I'm over the Earth at this point in time.
Okay, would you, I don't know how I would do this. Would you next time take off in an airplane, then set your gyro to spin up, please?
Sorry, say again?
Would you next time fly, don't spin your gyro up on at the airport. First fly in the air, then set your gyro to spin and see what's going to happen.
I actually can do that. That's totally doable because you kind of want to stay the wings level a little bit, but yeah, the gyro will spin up and stabilize itself.
Great. So it's literally based on a horizontal then. That's what I'm trying to say. It's rigid in space. Your whole plane's banking and everything data is based on that rigidity in space by the gyro. The gyro stays horizontal no matter if you're looking up, down, left, right, center. It stays horizontal, aka parallel to where you set it.
All right.
It's like a bicycle tire.
I give up on this topic. If you want to schedule another call,
yeah,
we can spend
but
a
it's
whole
1
hour.
o'clock in the morning.
I was about to say, I think we should probably, we can continue this. It'd probably be good to give Flatzoid a bit more time to prepare because I said celestial navigation.
I did have one final question for Flatzoid.
Yeah.
But then I'll let
Okay.
it go. I want you to tell us. Hang on a second. This came out of the end of your last call with Craig.
Yeah.
What is? And let me share my screen. What's the difference between these 4 different craft?
In what relation?
Well, your claim last time you were on Craig, you claimed that the ISS was something that was being carried across the sky on a balloon.
I said it could be a drone that's closer. It could be a balloon. It could be an aircraft. It's all just skepticism. I mean, you can literally just make up a theory on what it could be, not exactly what it is. But I do know it cannot be claimed to where they're saying it is because it would violate the natural law of thermodynamics.
So if you're willing, I would love to have a debate with you just on this particular topic. I would love to do that. But if you look at the ISS from, I've done it myself. Hundreds of people have actually filmed it going across the sky. First of all, you can see there's no balloon. Second of all, you can see it's unaerodynamic as hell.
Yeah, well, there's no air pressure high up.
It could be flying along by itself at the speed it's flying at.
This balloon here also isn't aerodynamic because there's hardly any air up there.
Yeah, it took it 4 days to move across the country.
And
the ISS circles the Earth every 90 minutes.
Again, like I said, the ISS doesn't necessarily have to be a balloon. You don't even see a balloon there.
Yeah. So let's if you want.
But yeah, we can talk on this sometime if you want to. We can talk on this if you want to.
That would be a fun.
Yeah.
But I don't want to keep you.
Yeah, because it is 1 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, let's definitely arrange another call. Flatzoid, just before you go, I've got a couple of questions from the chat or comments that if you want to respond to, you can.
Okay, yeah.
Alison says $5. Flatzoid, is there a functional flat Earth base map that doesn't contain any distortions?
No, there's no globe either, so it doesn't matter.
Right, okay. You and I need to talk about that specifically. Okay. Did you do? Alison again says for $5. Flatzoid, Mercator also pulls from WGS84, then projects it onto a flat surface because WGS84 is a geoid.
Which is based on surveying, because what they do with the WGS84 is they take planar surveying and then they go with considerations of an ellipsoid, hence the GWS84.
Oh, wow. Every surveyor in the world just started crying.
That's what geodetic surveying is about. The consideration of the ellipsoid. GSW84. It's a consideration of the geoid after planar surveying.
And PhD Tony, $10 Australian, says that seismic energy radiates from focus to antipode and back again over multiple circuits of Earth, which is completely incompatible with any flat Earth. Ditto for atmospheric pressure waves. Earth is not flat. What do you say to that?
I don't know what to say there. I didn't really make a comment. I didn't make claims about that, so okay. I'd like him to prove it though. I'd like him to prove it though instead of just making a statement.
Oh, he has proven it on his channel many times.
Would you send me the link?
Yeah, well, just go to PhD Tony, but I'll send you the link as
PhD
well.
Tony. Oh, okay. Never mind. Then I know it's
The only
gonna be-
real person.
Then I know he's debunking himself because that's all the guy does. But anyway, next.
Oh god, that's also painful. Anyway, yeah, that's it. We will get you back for another chat. Thank you very much. Also, yeah, your suggestion you gave me on Discord, I'm definitely up for that. Sounds
Yeah, it
fun.
went great.
Yeah. Hello to everyone on your side. Thank you for having me on, and I'll speak to you soon, bud.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me. Thank you, Robert. It was actually a pleasant discussion with you, mate. Definitely have to do
Yeah,
this
no,
again.
but yeah, I absolutely hate when you have debates where people are screaming and yelling. That's pointless. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It was fun.
I agree.
All right, see you later. That's fine.
Sure. Thank you very much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your
Bye.
evening or day or whatever you guys are. I need to sleep. Guys, what can I say? I'm not going to have an after show now because, I mean, it's pointless having an after show at 1 a.m. in the morning. What do you guys think of that? Because he literally contradicted himself practically on every subject, and I don't think he realized how he threw his globe in the dustbin with most of his arguments. So thank you all for coming. I really, really appreciate you all coming out. Thank you all for the super chat. Sorry that it just ended somehow and we had to start a new stream. I'll somehow see how I can stitch them. But thanks for coming. You guys are awesome. So I'll see you tomorrow. Well, tonight actually. Till next time. Blessings. May the pressure be with you.